Antranig, first let me thank you for joining us via Skype from Karabagh and sharing with us your observations and any information about where we are and where we go from here.
Well, I think that's a $64 million question. I'm not able to give you probably the clarity and the specificity that you need because the situation is somewhat fluid. For the most part, large-scale fighting is over. There are uh, periodic exchanges of fire continuing, mostly in the Mardaket region, in the Karabakh's northeastern border. But the exchanges of fire are, as usual, as it has been for many years, just the exchanges of sniper fire. The medium range weapons, heavy artillery have all been pulled back for the time being by Azerbaijan. Uh, and of course, the Karabakh forces remain in a state of readiness because they're the reacting side. They're not the attacking side, but rather trying to repel attacks.
Antranig, we in New Jersey follow the news and we are impressed by the solid support Armenia and Armenian soldiers have received during this crisis. What is your evaluation and what kind of a support is there on the other side, especially from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Summit that is taking place in Turkey, in fact, as we speak?
Well, first, I should echo what you're saying. Um, the people here in Karabakh, the officials, as well as your everyday people, are very cognizant of the fact that Armenia and the diaspora have rallied to support them. They feel the solidarity, they feel the moral support. The Karabakhis often joke and say that uh, we tend to not cooperate with each other in times of peace, and it takes a war to bring everyone together. They say that half jokingly. But on the other side, there's no doubt, I think, that Turkey is providing active support to Azerbaijan in this effort. Now, how to publicize that and how to make use of that is a tricky thing because, as you know, in international political circles, Turkey often is the favorite son of the Western powers, and they often seem to have a Teflon armor that protects them from even the most obvious criticism. In this case, fighters have told me, people who were directly involved in the combat, that the Azerbaijani fighters this time around were not the ragtag units that we were accustomed to 20 years ago. They're much better trained. It's clear that they've got somebody helping them on the outside, and there are various direct and indirect sources that indicate that the training is coming from Turkey.
Uh, Once again, we talk about our community. We are very, very much connected with our community. You know the usual questions. What can we do besides going to New York in front of the Azerbaijani consulate and demonstrate? Is there anything more concrete that you would expect us to do? And what is it we don't understand of the situation which you can clarify being there in Karabakh? What is something that you've seen or heard that really, really moved you or impressed you?
Yes, well, look, it's a multi-part question, so let me try to take it piece by piece. Look, there are many ways to help. I think at the base level, we have to show our solidarity for the people here. The people here, you don't get the sense of it until you're here.
Hmm.
They really do appreciate the support. The hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that have come from Armenia, uh, the the financial and other forms of support coming from diaspora. It does make a difference. Now, I will tell you, Vartan, I am not an advocate of blindly providing aid. I'm generally not one to say, okay, here's a bank account, now send your money to the bank account. I believe in directed aid. I believe in aid that is focused on specific needs and specific deliverables. But at the same time, we have a state of emergency now. So I can't blame anyone for simply writing a check, sending it off, and assuming it will make a difference. I think as the situation hopefully calms down, then there will be an opportunity to think more clearly about specific kinds of assistance, directed aid that we can provide. Right now, the most of the assistance you see is either going directly to the NKR government for its needs or for fallen fighters' families, wounded soldiers' families, whether that's financial or medical support. I expect, Barkan, that in the coming days and weeks, you'll see more and more directed aid towards different needs, whether those are directly tied to the fighting, whether that has to do with support of medical humanitarian nature, or more broadly, fighting the PR fight, because it's clear that the Azerbaijani lobby is spending a lot of money trying to place stories in the media, both in Russia and especially in the West. So we've got to do a lot of anti-defamation work to combat the imbalance in news reporting on this issue.
What was the demonstration in the front of the Russian embassy in Yerevan all about?
Well, I have to tell you, today I've been out and about. I heard about the demonstration, but I haven't wrapped my brain around it. I don't know, what the motivations were or who the principal organizers were even. All I know is that it took place, and it was a very angry demonstration criticizing President Putin for Russia's support, military support for Azerbaijan. I can't say much more than that because today I was out in the field in border regions of Karabakh doing field work.
When you were out in the field, I know that Karakin II, Catholicos of Armenia, and Aram I of the Great House of Cilicia were in Karabakh. Did you have a chance to see them? What was the response from the local Karabakhis?
No, I did not see them. Obviously, there was a lot of buzz here amongst the public, amongst the population, that the two Catholicoi were here. As you probably know, they jointly conducted Badarak at the historic monastery of Gansasav, and they did tour Karabakh as well. And I think mainly they were here to provide moral support to the people, which was felt, and also to provide larger PR resonance. I've seen some of the public statements that Aram Behapad has made for the press, for example, and I'm hopeful that some of these press statements will also influence the media landscape. But no, I have not had an opportunity to see them.
Antranig, my last question. I know you have had a long day. It's midnight in Karabakh. Is there a military solution, diplomatic solution? What kind of a solution can we expect?
Wow, well, that's the big question right now. We've got to tease apart, first of all, what has happened and what is happening. We need to clearly understand the motivations and the tactics in order to effectively plot our moves. For example, it appears now that the big policeman in this neighborhood, which is Russia, has finally sprung into action and is speaking in very serious terms with both Armenia and Azerbaijan to put the negotiations back on track through the OSCE Minsk group. I find that very encouraging, but at the same time, people are scratching their heads and wondering why it took so long. It took several days of fighting for Russia to step in and say that, look, fighting is not going to solve anything. You've got to go back to the table. So people are a little bit concerned about that time lag, about that delay, and what Russia's motivations might be. Now, honestly, Vartan, I don't think anything has changed in the larger geopolitics. Russia views the South Caucasus as its backyard. I don't think they react well to other powers, Turkey, but especially the U.S. Meddling. They view it as meddling in their affairs. And I can't imagine that Russia is going to favor a military solution. But on the contrary, when I hear some of the comments coming out of the West, and particularly out of Washington, I sense that the United States is actually quietly kind of pleased that Azerbaijan has knocked Armenia and Karabagh back on its heels. And I'm very disappointed, actually, by Washington's reaction. Rather than trying to bring things back to a peaceful stage, they seem very hands-off, almost as if they're willing to let Azerbaijan have its way, even with unprovoked aggression, unprovoked assault. Military solution is in nobody's interest. Neither Armenia and Karabakh nor Azerbaijan. I would like to believe that Azerbaijan understands this. You know, they suffered immense losses, and the losses, the tallies are still being tallied. But it's clear Azerbaijan has lost hundreds of fighters in this offensive. They took a small amount of territory, a very small amount, and paid for it with a very high toll in lives given. So you would think that they would think twice about mounting such attacks again. Of course, the problem is Azerbaijan now has their shiny new toys, medium-range artillery and explosive weapons, that enable them to do more damage with less people, less manpower on the front. So I think that has emboldened them to try this. I will also say, Vartan, I'm still convinced that a major factor in all of this is Azerbaijan's domestic situation. If you read their media reports or watch Azerbaijan's TV news, most of Aliyev's triumphal victory pronouncements are done for domestic consumption. They're done to excite his people, to rally them behind his leadership. And I still believe he's doing this mainly to distract his public from the problems they have at home.
Could you close this interview with any positive note?
You're catching me at the wrong time. I want to be positive, and I do believe the situation is now calming down. It's still tense, but stable. But I think we all have to be really watchful in the coming days. This is not a return to the status quo, at least not yet. I think we all have to remain on alert. We've got to follow the news every day. And if it requires us to give more, whether that's volunteering, writing checks, writing Congress, penning articles for the media, we've got to be ready to do everything and anything that we can do. So I guess, Vartan, stay tuned.